A soldier raised his weapon to kill his enemy, but a few hours later, he was checking that same enemy's breathing. Sometimes, this is the strangest part of war. The man sent to kill you can become your last chance to survive. At midnight, an explosion tore through the mountains, and the ground seemed to collapse beneath him. The trench shattered, dirt flew into the air, and screams disappeared into the darkness. When he opened his eyes, he was no longer on the battlefield, but inside a narrow, damp, and pitch-black space. Pieces of stone lay on top of him, broken wood pressed against his side, and the roar of the explosion still echoed in his ears. At first, he did not understand where he was, but then the smell of soil reminded him of everything. Part of the trench had collapsed, and he had survived underground. He tried to move his arm, but a sharp pain shot through his shoulder. He had to stay calm, because above him, gunfire was still cracking through the night. A few seconds later, a faint breathing sound came from the darkness. He froze instantly, because that breath did not belong to him. Slowly, he reached for his weapon, and his fingers found the cold metal. Then a muffled voice came from the dark, but it was not speaking his language. In that moment, everything changed because the other survivor beside him was not from his army. He was trapped in the same grave, in the same darkness, facing the same death, with the enemy. His first instinct was simple: move first, or he will kill you. In moments of danger, the human brain does not think clearly. It switches into survival, choosing fight, flight, or freeze. He raised his weapon, but the darkness was so thick he could not see anything. From the other side came the sound of metal, which meant the enemy had reached for his weapon too. Two men were breathing in the dark, aiming guns at each other without even being able to see. Between them stood not only the darkness, but years of trained hatred. Their commanders had taught them to see the enemy not as a human being, but as a threat. Because in war, before you can kill someone, you must first forget that he is human. But now, that was impossible, because the enemy's breathing was too close. That breath was afraid, trembling, and strangely similar to his own. A piece of stone broke loose from the ceiling and fell between them, making both men flinch at the same time. That small sound showed them one truth. If they fought down here, they would both die. He did not lower his weapon, but he did not fire either. The other man did the same, and in the darkness, a strange agreement formed between them. Neither of them said it out loud, but both of them understood. For now, they would remain enemies, but they would not try to kill each other. Several minutes passed, and the silence became heavier. Sometimes, silence is more terrifying than gunfire, because it leaves a man alone with the voices inside his own mind. He realized the man beside him was wounded because his breathing was getting weaker. The enemy kept touching his chest, trying to swallow the pain. At first, he did nothing because he had been taught that an enemy's weakness was his advantage. But then a small photograph slipped out of the man's coat pocket. The photo slid across the dirt, and in the weak light, only 3 figures could be seen: a woman, a child, and a man in uniform trying to smile. When he looked at that photograph, something inside him cracked. The enemy suddenly stopped being a red mark on a map and became a man who wanted to go home. In psychology, this is called humanization, when the brain begins to see the person in front of it as an individual again. Once that happens, hatred becomes weaker, because hatred survives best when the enemy stays far away. Carefully, he pulled out his canteen and pushed it through the darkness. The enemy pulled back at first, but thirst became stronger than fear. When the canteen passed from one hand to another, an invisible wall between them cracked a little. It was not friendship yet, but it was no longer pure hatred either. Above them, the battle continued, and every explosion made the underground space feel smaller. Each time the ceiling shook, both men looked in the same direction, trying to guess where death would come from next. After a while, they began digging through the dirt with their hands. Neither man trusted the other, but both knew the way out could not be found alone. He looked at the enemy's hands and saw that his fingers were covered in blood. Those hands may have fired at his side yesterday, but now they were digging through the same earth. War forces people into strange choices. Sometimes, in order to survive, you have to believe in the same goal as the man you hate. As the hours passed, the air grew heavy, and breathing became difficult. In that moment, their armies, flags, and languages faded into the background, because oxygen does not choose sides. Suddenly, the enemy began coughing, and his breath caught in his throat. He hesitated, then slowly loosened the man's collar so he could breathe more easily. That touch was dangerous, because on the battlefield, getting close to the enemy could mean death. But underground, the rules had changed, and mercy was no longer weakness. It was a way to survive. He became angry with himself because the old voice in his mind was still speaking. That voice told him he should not help this man because he might have killed his friends. But there was another voice too, and this one was quieter. It asked him if he might have killed this man's friends as well. That question silenced him, because in war, guilt never belongs to only one side. Everyone looks righteous from their own trench, but every bullet returns to someone's home as terrible news. The enemy made a weak movement and pulled a small piece of paper from his pocket. It was a simple drawing made by a child. A house, a sun, and 3 people standing by the door. He looked at the drawing and suddenly remembered his own home. He remembered the streets that smelled of fresh bread in the morning, his mother's quiet worry, and the letter he had never sent. That memory softened something hard inside him. Because once a man remembers his own home, it becomes harder to forget that someone else has one too. Suddenly, voices came from above and both men froze. Footsteps were getting closer, but it was impossible to know which army they belonged to. If they were his men, the enemy would be captured. If they were the enemy's men, then he would be the prisoner. But there was something even more frightening. The men above might shoot first. In the ruins, without knowing who was who, they might treat anything that moved as a threat. He looked toward the opening, then looked back at the wounded enemy beside him. For one brief second, a terrible thought entered his mind. If he left the man behind, he could save himself more easily. That thought scared him, because in that moment, he saw the darkness inside himself. War does not always turn a man into a monster. Sometimes, it simply opens the door to the monster already inside him. He grabbed the enemy by the arm to shut that door. The man groaned in pain, but he did not resist. Together, they crawled toward the narrow opening, and every movement brought new pain. Dirt filled their clothes, breath caught in their throats, but the cold air coming from the exit pulled them forward. Dirt filled their clothes, breath caught in their throats, but the cold air coming from the exit pulled them forward. A voice shouted from above and weapons clicked into place. He understood that if he was 1 second too late, they could both be shot. Suddenly, the enemy pushed him back and tried to shield him from a falling stone with his own body. It was not planned heroism, but an instinctive choice. One human being trying to save another. For a moment, he could not move, because he had not expected it. The man who was supposed to kill him had just risked himself to keep him alive. In that instant, all the propaganda, all the hatred, and all the orders seemed to lose their voice. Because no ideology can easily turn a man back into a monster after you have seen him save your life. At last, they crawled out through the wreckage, and cold air struck their faces. But freedom did not arrive the way they imagined, because guns were pointed at them from both sides. Soldiers from his own army were shouting, ordering the enemy to raise his hands. Voices from the other side were shouting too, and everyone looked at them as if they had crawled out of betrayal itself. He stepped forward and stood between the guns. His throat was dry, but he still managed to say, "Do not shoot." In that moment, the most dangerous enemy was no longer the wounded man beside him. The most dangerous enemy was the machine that forced people to hate each other before ever seeing each other. The enemy soldier dropped to his knees and lowered his head, but he remained standing beside him because a few hours in the darkness had shown him more than years of hatred ever had. Later, they were separated, questioned, and everyone wanted to hear their story. But no one could fully understand the most important thing that happened underground. They had not only survived down there, they had learned how dangerous and how necessary it is to see a human face in the enemy. War teaches people how to kill the enemy, but sometimes chance traps them in the same darkness. And in that darkness, a man understands that fear has no language, pain has no color, and the desire to go home belongs to everyone. Years later, when that soldier spoke about the night, he did not remember the name of the battle. He only said this: "I was trapped with the enemy, but when I came out, I no longer knew who the enemy really was." Because sometimes it is not great victories that change a person. Sometimes it is one night of sharing the same breath with the man you were supposed to kill.